Do you think that we have any relationship problems? Maybe. Okay, we'll deal with those later. Hello, my name is Sydney and welcome back to my channel. How are we doing today? Good? Well, today we're going to be talking about why all of my relationships have failed. So fun. Let's get into it. There's nothing like exposing yourself on the internet. If this helps somebody, then I'm so glad that I have dealt with all this heartbreak and I can help you. Okay, so I made a fun little list. I will be explaining why none of my relationships have worked out in the past and what I learned from them. So first off is I didn't deal with any of my emotions, meaning that any feelings that I was feeling towards that partner, I never dealt with them. And this is something that I have been trying to work on and been trying to go to therapy and work through that. But in the past, especially when I was younger, I would never deal with my emotions. If I was feeling sad or angry or pissed off or whatever at them, I would never do anything about it. I would just let myself still feel that pissed offness and then keep taking it out on them. Definitely don't do that. That is such a big lesson learned, because your feelings are valid, your feelings are yours, but it doesn't mean that you can't work through them so that your partner doesn't have to suffer as well, because oftentimes your feelings are basically something that you have to deal with, and even though your partner can do things to change and help you if you feel more comfortable, until you really look inward and figure out where those feelings are coming from, you're not going to be able to get past that speed bump in the relationship, if that makes sense. The second one is I was really closed-minded, and I was very stuck in my parents' thinking, especially when I was still living with my parents. I would project a lot of the things that they had projected onto me in my life, like no tattoos, oh my god, how that's changed, and no drugs and anything like that, onto my partner. So if my partner ever did anything or talked about anything in those regards, I would always shut them down and hammer in these beliefs that my parents had given me. And I just wasn't an independent form me my opinion kind of person yet. And so in a lot of my past relationships, I had very set feelings about things that were non-negotiables, when in reality it was just something that I was raised in. You know how they say nature versus nurture? For me, that was my nurture, and then it took a while for me to get to my natural thinking and what I actually thought about all these different matters. Obviously I've changed my mind on a lot of things, but anyways, that was a huge roadblock when it came to some of my partners. Now the third one, and I cannot stress this one enough on how bad it is for you, but I gave my everything, and when I say everything, I mean my everything, to these partners. And so I was just left feeling super alone, or just that expression of you are my everything. It literally was how I was treating those people, and when I wasn't around them, I was missing them and I wanted to be with them, and I couldn't actually enjoy anything else in my life because I was so focused on wanting to be with them and constantly wanting that attention and all that good stuff, all those good feelings. But in reality, I needed to take time away and be comfortable on my own, even if I was in a relationship. And I think that this is super applicable to any new or older relationship, because codependency is super prevalent nowadays, separation anxiety, all that fun stuff. So making sure that you can have your alone time, have your you time, have your friends time, all that stuff, I think is really important to developing yourself outside of the relationship, because two people can grow together individually, if that makes sense. Hi! Orion, say hi. Hi. Another thing that I struggled heavily with was I let them control all of my emotions. If they texted me something out of the blue, or if something came up and they were mad at me and they were ignoring me, it consumed me to the point where I couldn't even have normal conversations, or I couldn't be present with anybody else because I was so worried about, were they gonna break up with me? Were we in a fight? Were we okay? All of this bullshit. And honestly, it just brought me to such a low point, and I experienced depressive episodes because I let my emotions get like that out of hand. I know that like there's a lot of people who might be watching this thinking like, how can you like get a depressive episode from like a person? But the thing is that like if you aren't comfortable in yourself, which I definitely wasn't back then, I certainly let those people just shit all over me, and I got shitted on, and now I shitted on them. Anyways, I really hope that you never have to go through something like that. But if you're a person like me and you're empathic and you're naturally wanting everything good in your relationship, everything to go right in your relationship, then it's hard. It's really hard when you first enter into the dating world to get to those places where you guys aren't in a good place and not have it like totally consume your entire freaking brain. And that was something that I definitely struggled with. Okay, this next one is I let myself be gaslit. Somebody gaslighted me and I would over apologize. And this is something that I will never do again, because like obviously I have done so much work on myself and I've had so much therapy and help to get over these like toxic patterns with partners, but gaslighting is like so prevalent, and I'm glad that people are talking about it more now, because I would have, oh my god, I would have benefited 100% from hearing about it when I was younger. But in these past relationships, at certain points, I'm not saying that in all of them, but at certain points I was gaslit, and whenever these things would happen, I would just over apologize, thinking that it was all my fault and that I did everything wrong, and me speaking my emotions, my feelings, or speaking like why I was uncomfortable was all my fault and I shouldn't have done that. And it's just crazy to kind of like reflect on this sort of stuff, because you know, like little 18-year-old Sydney just trying to set some boundaries. That's another one of my points, is that I just didn't set any boundaries. I had no idea what a boundary was. Like nowadays, like boundaries are really important to me. I think that they're really healthy in any relationship that you have, whether it be like a friendship, a family relationship, or a romantic one. But having boundaries and like setting boundaries around things is wonderful, but like I just didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know that that was like a thing. If anything, I probably would have thought that I was being like controlling or something if I would have done that in the past. But now that I've like had a lot of help and reflection on these situations, I'm like, wow, I could have really benefited from setting a boundary. And there were times too where I even did set a boundary and the person was like, okay, I guess. You know, it's tough because you just want to be like heard and respected, and I just never really think that I felt that gratification, which has like made me super insecure about setting boundaries then in the future. And luckily I've like gotten over that insecurity, but like definitely made me feel as though I just had to be like Little Miss Perfect in all my relationships and being like, yes, of course you can do that, yes, of course you can do this. It's like, no, you know, like you don't have to say yes to everything. You can set boundaries, you can say no, you can express your feelings, like that's totally fine. But I just didn't like understand that. Okay, so this is a big one. This is a really big one, and this is one that I'm still working with. I hadn't felt and worked through my trauma. I hadn't worked through it in the sense that like, in any sense really, for the most part I just kind of blew it off as like, oh yeah, it happens to everybody, yada yada yada, just keep on living my life and dating people. But until I was able to like go to a therapist, talk to people about it, and start to work up the courage to like face those like fears and face those demons, I would totally just like look for people to keep me safe in relationships. When I realized that it's not actually a person that I was like attracted to, or not a person that I wanted to be with long term, then I would just like not know what to do then. And it was just because of my like unresolved trauma responses that I was leading these people on for attention and for security and for safety. And like that's such a bad thing to do. And obviously, you know, I'm working my best right now to like make sure that I've got a lot of that sorted out, because obviously nobody's perfect. Everybody has those days. And nobody can like be 100% over their trauma. But like recognizing like where your triggers are and how you respond to people when they ask you about it or when you talk about it, that sort of thing is stuff that you can control. And it's really good to be able to have some sort of system to make sure that you're grounded and you're very secure and safe within yourself before you let like anybody else in, because nobody can be your like security guard. Even though I would love to have somebody that could just like show up like whenever I needed them to like punch a bitch, I don't have the money for that. Okay, this one's like really vulnerable, and I don't know how many of you guys will relate to this one. Back, especially a couple years ago, but even like a year ago, I've really like turned a corner in the past like 3 months. I didn't know my worth when I was dating a lot of my partners, so they didn't know it either. I don't think that many of my partners really saw my worth, or at least like what my potential was. A lot of them just saw me for who I was in that moment, which was usually pretty insecure and definitely not living up to my full Sydney potential. My insecurities about myself would seep into that relationship, and so they would either pry off of those insecurities and use it in a way that could like leverage them, or it was a situation where they just never saw my worth either because I wasn't recognizing it and I wasn't putting that energy out into the universe. This leads me to my next point, which was, since I was insecure, I got into relationships. So because I was insecure within myself, because I didn't see like my value, because I didn't know my worth, I would jump at any sort of attention. And this is very like in tune with ego and in tune with us just wanting, like, seeking attention, because like ego is all about like you wanting, like, seeking validation, wanting attention from others, and you're just like egotistical, right? We've all heard about it. One of the things that I loved the other day that I saw was like starve the ego, because once you start starving the ego and you basically stop seeking out validation from other people or attention from other people to make yourself feel better, you have to really start like doing the work to make your own self feel better. Like, you have to be your own hype man, you have to be your own partner, you have to like get your ass up to work out, and you know, when you take those photos of yourself, you gotta be like, yeah, I'm a bad bitch. You do not need anybody else's validation. Because I was insecure, I was getting into these relationships, and no matter how much they told me I was beautiful, or how much they told me that I was, you know, I had a stunning personality, whatever it was never enough, because I didn't believe it. And because I didn't believe it, the words were just like going in one ear out another, and I was like, oh, you're just saying that because you're dating me. And it's like, no, like, I actually am an amazing person. When they told me that, I wish I would have believed it, and I wish I really would have like stopped telling them off and being like, no, you are, or whatever, and just being like, yeah, thank you, I know I am. Because that's sort of confidence that like I really want to bring into my next relationship, is like knowing my own worth and my partner knowing my worth as well. This is something that I'm still working on. I didn't let myself feel lonely or sad for long enough after relationships ended, and oftentimes I thought I was ready, and I mean, there's never like a exact moment that you're gonna be ready to like start dating again. It could be in a couple weeks, it could be in a couple months, it could be in a couple years. Like, it really doesn't matter. But I truly do feel like, reflecting back on the times where I was single, that I just wasn't single for long enough, and I really wish that I could have just been sad and lonely for a little bit longer. Because again, like, my ego kicked in and I was like, I need attention, I need somebody to talk to, fuck that person, like, I'm gonna go and do my own thing. Well, doing my own thing and seeking out other people are two very different things, but it's okay because I'm just 21. I would have focused on myself and taken more time to just like feel all of the anger and sadness and be alone for a little bit longer. Alright, so last two. The second to last one is I gave them all of my time and I didn't give myself any of it. And I think that we kind of talked about this earlier, but just like really like making time for yourself and for the other people in your life is like critical. And this is something that I didn't learn until very recently, because every time that I got into a relationship, it would basically just be like me and that person against the world. And there's nothing wrong with that if like you don't have a good friend group or your friends are like bringing you down. But the people in my life that really loved me would miss me when I would get into relationships, because I only wanted to be with them, and they would even comment on it. And I feel like it's really important to listen to the people around you that you love and care about, your family, your friends, that support you no matter what, because you know they can see these things happening and you should trust them when they say things like that. Okay, this last one, I played the victim card a lot when I was younger, not wanting to take the blame or listen to them. I have a really hard time, and this is totally my Leo, I have a really hard time admitting when I'm wrong, and luckily it's gotten easier over the years. When I was younger, I constantly hated when people would bring up things that I was doing that was wrong, so I would always try to like twist it and like be like, well, you're doing this wrong, or I don't see how this is wrong if you're doing this. And I would never really just like take the blame and take accountability. That's something that I really appreciate nowadays when I'm meeting people, or people taking accountability for their actions or for their words, whether it be like before or during the relationship. That is like really important, because you know, if you don't take accountability for them and you don't at least like recognize like how that person's feeling, then there's no way that they can feel like heard and seen, and that is so damn important. Okay guys, that is basically all that I have for you today. I hope that you guys know that it is okay if you are still doing some of these things, because I still accidentally do some of these things too. We are not perfect and we are all human, and it's okay to make mistakes. But here are some of the things that I've learned from my like 5 years or something of dating and multiple relationships, and these are some of the reasons why I feel like all my relationships failed. But is failed a really good way to put it? I don't think so. I think that they were just all stepping stones to get me to where I am today, to get me to be an ideal partner for my future partner. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you next week. Peace. Okay, wait, can we talk about how freaking cute this little boy is right here? Oh my god, I love him so much.